What is up, New York? Ricky Keeler back here with you for another episode of New York State of Sports here on IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports. And we have a big, exciting show here for you today for episode 53. We're going to talk Jets getting a big road win in Nashville. They're in the win column. They found a run game. They found kind of an identity early in the year that's going to lead them to some wins. And especially in a short week, that was a pivotal game in Tennessee. We'll talk about that. The Giants don't have a kicker. They don't have a win. The fact that they lose a game in which they don't get a single touchdown, they don't allow a touchdown, that's a new low for this team. There's a win in sight, we'll talk about it. Yankees taking 3 and 4 for the Red Sox. You stranglehold the AL East with 12 games to go. But there was some concern involving their ace that we'll talk about. The Mets, Francisco Lindor getting them on his back. He's their playoff hopes. Still intact, but they have a pivotal homestand this week. The Liberty take a tough loss yesterday. There was NASCAR in upstate New York. A really dramatic finish at that. Soccer teams get a split. College football locals are back in action this week in some big games for all three teams. And of course, preseason hockey starts next week. And the Knicks make a couple of signings. There's so much going on. I don't know how we're going to fit it on an hour plus. We're going to find out. So stay right here. New York State Sports IE Sports Radio coming up next. And thank you once again for tuning in here on this Monday afternoon, a little Monday afternoon quarterback here on New York State of Sports. Ricky Keeler back here with you. Excited to talk some bunch of different sports on the docket. But before we do that, I want to make sure you follow us on X, IG, Facebook, TikTok at IE Sports Radio. You can also go to our YouTube page where we have all these shows, especially this one. So if you're listening live, please feel free to comment in the section throughout the next hour plus. Happy to hear from you. If you missed any part of the show or you just want to hear from me again throughout the week, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all your places to go to get those podcasts. Go to iesportsradio.com. We got some cool stuff there. We have show pages such as this one on the bottom of the screen, iesportsradio.com/New York State of Sports. Just catch up with all 53 episodes of the show. You can also follow the show on Twitter or X at NY State Sports IE. And you can follow me at Rickinator555. We're going to get into the Jets in just a minute, but first we got to get here a quick word from our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Seal the Deal, Wax Deals, and hear a little bit more about what makes IE Sports Radio so special. Stay right here. We'll be right back to talk Jets win against Tennessee in just a minute.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And of course, welcome back here to New York State of Sports and IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all their sports. Ricky Keeler here with you for an awesome Monday afternoon. Of course, we have some of our own IE Sports family here today. Ralph Calise, the Yinzer Report. Be sure to check out his show. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Ralph. And T5 from our New Orleans show, Crescent City Connection, to see our Saints get a nice win over the Cowboys in the NFC East yesterday. Derek Carr looking pretty good so far, a 2-0 squad. But what's up, T5? Good to have you here in the family. So, let's talk Jets to start off with, and we didn't get to talk much about them last week because when we do the show Monday afternoons before Monday Night Football, we don't get to really dive into the game in depth. We are working on some point during the year when there's a Monday night game, doing a post game or something like that to kind of have multiple shows throughout to get into. Jets look really weak against the run against the 49ers, especially without Christian McCaffrey. And this is a defense that was put in to be the strength of this team. And you kind of missed that in the first half yesterday against Tennessee. The Titans don't have the same kind of formidable offense that the 49ers do. It's just that simple. You're going up against Will Levis. It's a little bit different. And I thought against the ground game, they did a little bit better yesterday. Tony Pollard held at 62 yards, about 3.5 yards a carry. I thought they did a pretty good job there. And especially this defense tightened up in the second half. And we'll dive into it in a little bit. But I think when you look at the Jets, everyone's going to focus on the offense. Everyone's going to focus on what Aaron Rodgers and this team is. And I would say off of the somewhat clunker in the first game and then a little slowish start in the second game, you're not going to see this Jet offense be complete until about middle of the year because remember, Aaron Rodgers missed the whole year last year. They didn't really get those game reps in the preseason. So it's normal to get these things to kind of get treated a little bit differently. And I thought Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, the rookie out of Wisconsin, are showing a really good 1-2 punch early in the year. People will wonder, hey, Breece Hall is supposed to be the primary back, but they drafted two running backs for a reason. They want to, I think, spell Breece Hall's load a little bit. And Hall was good yesterday. 14 carries, 62 yards, He had that great catch on the 26-yard touchdown from Aaron Rodgers. 7 catches, 52 yards out of the backfield. He's been Rodgers' primary guy, whether it's him or Garrett Wilson. And Wilson made a great catch in the second half that led to the Jets' go-ahead touchdown. That's the two guys Rodgers wants to go to. Now, he'll mix in a little Allen Lazard like he did against the 49ers in the second half. Mike Williams eventually is going to get more reps in this offense as he gets healthier. Tyler Conklin's going to get more involved. So there's some weapons the Jets have to play with at their disposal. But you look at this, the secret of this success is the ground game. 21 carries for 95 yards yesterday. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that's going to beat a lot of teams, especially with this offensive line. Tyron Smith did a really good job on the O-line yesterday. And they can win games that way. So when you have a guy in Allen that's used to playing smash mouth football at Wisconsin, and you've got Hall that can be elusive, those are some good things. It takes the pressure off Rodgers a bit because, let's be honest, he's not going to go out there and throw for 350 yards right out of the gate. Now, I think people are surprised that he's not throwing for over 200 yards. He had 18 for 30, 176, and 2 touchdowns. Didn't turn the ball over yesterday. And I thought you saw what Aaron Rodgers can do on those fade routes. We just talked about the one with Hall, but there was the Garrett Wilson ball in the fourth quarter. Mike Williams had a nice catch on a fade route. He's good with getting the ball up to the receiver at the highest point and getting him to grab it. And that's what they missed. I was reading a stat yesterday. The Jets hadn't had back-to-back multi-touchdown games from a quarterback since 2021. So there's a really low bar Aaron Rodgers has to reach to be successful. Now, there's championship aspirations for sure, and there's deep postseason run aspirations. But right now, the bar is pretty low in terms of Jets successful quarterbacks. And Aaron Rodgers is clearly doing that. I think you look at this team and you look at the offense as a whole yesterday, no turnovers. So that was big. You look at a team that, 5 of 12 on third down, could be a little bit better. But and they are committing a lot of penalties, 7 penalties for 70 yards, and the time possession was pretty much even. So slow start, but you got to remember also short week, going on the road, difficult competition. I don't maybe difficult from the standpoint. Look, Tennessee has played tough in 2 games. I mean, they had a 17-3 lead in Chicago. They let slip away, and then they let yesterday slip away in a game that was close throughout. I don't think the Jets were ever in danger of falling out of it, but that's a game where you can easily trip up. And I know it's not technically Aaron Rodgers' first win, but it really is his first win playing start to finish. And that was an emotional moment for him to get a win here in a Jet uniform. So all in all, I thought they did a pretty good job in this game. And I look at it defensively, Will McDonald was clutch. 3 sacks on the defensive side, especially Jermaine Johnson goes out with an Achilles injury. We'll see how that affects the Jets during the week. But McDonald, 4 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. Jets had 4 sacks in the game. The other one coming from Solomon Thomas. Now, the question's going to be, is this Jermaine Johnson injury enough to prevent the Jets necessarily from giving in on the Hassan Reddick stuff? I'm not so sure of that necessarily. A lot can change between now and whenever that is. We don't know to the extent what Johnson's injury is. But McDonald is a lot of these guys the Jets have some good depth on the defensive line in terms of getting after the quarterback. The one area they struggle with is stopping the run. They don't have that interior, and that's where losing a Bryce Huff and a John Franklin Myers kind of does. They have to pivot in a different way and kind of reform this defense. Because if they can stop the run, that allows them to pin their ears back and get after teams on third down. But I thought McDonald was good yesterday. Irvin Charles did a really good job at that punt block. They also had another key pivotal moment during the game. They got a big punt, special teams play where Tennessee, the block punt was really the big moment in the ball game because it kind of gave the momentum back to the Jets. So Charles did a really good job. Look, Robert Saleh got this win on all 3 phases of the game. And when you go on the road, especially in the NFL, you've got to get all 3 phases clicking to win. Jets did that. So props to them getting their first win. And now they head home. And this is a tough schedule for them. 3 games in 11 days. to begin the year. Tough in terms of time slots. I don't really think it's tough from the competition isn't as stiff after the Niners game because let's face it, the Niners are going to be the best team the Jets probably play all year. So to get that game out of the way is great. They will host the Patriots Thursday night, 8:15 Eastern on Amazon Prime. Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, Kaylee Hartung. Massachusetts Mike, the host of our Beantown Blitz show, asked me, well, who do I have on Thursday? The Jets or the Patriots. Look, this is going to be an emotional game for Aaron Rodgers and for the Jets. Remember, last year's home opener did not go the way that the Jets would like in terms of losing Aaron Rodgers. Now it's kind of the second chance at a first impression, if you will. And I think the key in this game, if you're looking for any kind of key for the Jets, is going to be get ahead early. If there's one thing you look at with this Patriots team, and look, the Patriots have been better than advertised their first two games. They beat Cincinnati on the road. And yesterday, lost a very winnable game against Seattle. They had a field goal blocked with about 2.5 to go. They lose in overtime. The Patriots are limited in what they can do. Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson are a good 1-2 punch running the ball. We saw that yesterday. But Jacoby Brissett, when he has to pass, only has one primary target right now, and that's Hunter Henry. Jalen Polk is a solid rookie. He had his first touchdown yesterday. But they're not getting Demario Douglas involved. They're not getting John Baker barely even sees the field. KJ Osborne's no threat. And even though the Jets didn't have DJ Reed yesterday to go with Sauce Gardner, their pass defense did okay outside of guarding Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley gave the Jets fits yesterday in terms of how to rush for a touchdown. And then had 4 catches for 77 yards. But they were playing a team that had Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Hopkins is mixed in, but he's not fully healthy right now. Patriots don't present a downfield receiver threat. And even Brissett said after the game I was reading that the Patriots seem to be tipping off when they're going to throw the ball deep. The Jets kind of got the monkey off their back last year in a meaningless Week 18 game beating the Patriots because at least it shows them now, hey, they can beat New England. I think the Jets should win this game. But they can't. If the Patriots play from ahead, they can run the ball and pound the clock, and that can really expose what the Jets defense struggled with against Jordan Mason in Week 1. Stevenson is a really good between the tackles back. Gibson kind of gives a little mix up. Their run blocking is really good. I know Massachusetts Mike will probably agree with me. Their pass blocking stinks. Like they are awful at protecting the quarterback, and they didn't do anything to really address it over the spring and the summer to really give any confidence in that. So I think this Jet pass rush is going to feast on Jacoby Brissett. I think this game could be a lot different in Week 8 or Week 7. I think it's Week 8. And the Jets play Drake. I think it'll be Drake May by then. I think it could be more competitive. Jets think are favored by a touchdown. I like the Jets to win by 10. I think what you're seeing is Alex Van Pelt has the scheme to keep New England close. But the Jets, I think, to me, the energy, being at home, finding a way to win these games, they need the Jets have to win the next 3 games. Patriots, Denver, who looks terrible, at least offensively, and Minnesota looks a tougher game in London, but it's still a winnable game with Sam Darnold, even though the Vikings seem to win even without their best players. I think the Jets are pretty safe. I think they'll win their next 3. I think they'll be pretty good in doing so. And Mike, you're absolutely right. That the Patriots whole line is absolutely a mess. And T5, Braylon Allen, I love that pick. To me, I look at that and seeing the Jets had to find different guys and a different type of running back. And to find anytime you get a back from Wisconsin, you know they're a very tough running back, especially in cold weather. So I think Allen later in the year, and he's like one of the younger players to ever score a touchdown, he's only going to get better. So that's a good sign, I think, for the Jets going forward and seeing what they could do. So now let's talk New York Giants, who had a weird game of their own up in the nation's capital, a game where, again, nobody really wanted to watch, I think, when you look at the standpoint of it was an exciting game because you get to see Jalen Daniels for the first time. And right out of the chute, the Giants think they give the opening kickoff for a touchdown. It gets called back. But it's a pivotal moment in the game because Graham Gano, who had already come into the game with a groin injury, hurts his hamstring, is out the rest of the game. They're using their punter, Jamie Gilliam, to kick field goals. And he missed an extra point. And all of a sudden, after that point, the Giants decide we're not going to kick extra points the rest of the way. We're going to go for 2. And they made a couple of 2-point well, they didn't make any 2-point conversions. But I found this interesting stat in the Giants. First team ever to score 3 touchdowns, not allow a touchdown, and lose the game in regulation. That's the new low the Giants are at right now. So where that was a winnable game, you're stopping the Commanders, you're doing a really good job defensively. Jane Daniels was 23 of 29, but he didn't throw a touchdown. And to me, it's tough to blame the Giants offense yesterday. I mean, Daniel Jones, who were looking for some bounce back, and he kind of did that. 16 for 28, 178, 2 touchdowns. Didn't turn the ball over. And he said, you know what? If one target's working for me, I'm going to get the ball to Malik Neighbors. And Neighbors, outside of a key drop on a 4th down late in the game, 10 catches, 127 yards, a touchdown. He had 18 targets from Daniel Jones. The next Giants receivers, Darius Slayton, who was back from the concussion, and Wan'Dale Robinson, had 4. The Giants have only thrown passes to 4 players in the game. And it goes back to Dable saying last week, well, Jalen Hyatt's only a number 3, number 4. If he's only a number 3, number 4 receiver, why'd you draft him? I mean, Hyatt's a talented player. Get him involved. Find a way to make a deep play downfield because you have to find something. You have to find creativity. If the Giants don't have creativity, they can't win. And Brian Dable, who's calling plays, is supposed to be the guy that sets things up. And they did a good job running the ball yesterday. Devin Singletary, 16 carries, 95 yards, and a touchdown. But it goes back to this question. If you know your kicker is banged up going into the game, and Dable was arguing, well, a hamstring's different from a groin, why don't you have a kicker on the roster ready to go? And this goes for any NFL team. Why are you chancing playing the rest of the game with a punter as your kicker? When a game like this, which is, again, winnable for the Giants, all you had to do is make one stop, and they win the game. If they kick a field goal, they win the game. Kicking a couple extra points. But you're losing games because you don't, and Dable even said all decisions stop with me. Good. Then we know who to blame on everything. Because for a guy that got asked a question about being on the hot seat and is talking about, he's staring down reporters who ask him questions. And I agree, 2 games in is too early to ask a question about losing your job. But you didn't exactly show a lot of confidence. Singletary had a fumble over the game now. They did get after Daniels, 5 sacks. A good job by this defense. Jason Pinnock had 2. In the secondary, had a bunch of those sacks. Pinnock had 2. Drew Phillips, who's looked really good his first 2 games. He picks up 7 tackles in the sack. You think Micah McFadden, 7 tackles in the sack, did pretty good. Bobby Okereke had a sack. Thibodeau, 2 tackles for loss. Giants had 10 tackles for loss yesterday in a game they allowed 215 yards out of the backfield. Just very weird stat that you give that much on the ground and still have a decent game with containing the quarterback. They did allow the Commanders, though, to go 8 for 15 on 3rd and 4th down. That's no good. Giants were 5 of 10 in those situations. Commanders won a game, by the way, in which they committed 10 penalties. Like, that's a sloppy game by Dan Quinn standards. Giants only had 5 penalties, but for 20, I say only because it was 20 yards that affected them. And the Giants were behind the sticks the whole day. Remember, the Commanders took the first drive and went 10 minutes with it. Giants didn't touch the ball until late in the first quarter. And right now, it begs the question, when you look at this Giants team, where is their next wins coming from? Where is the first win coming from? Does it come this Sunday? Giants are going to the dog pound, taking on Gen B's show of the land Cleveland Browns. Browns got a win yesterday against the Jaguars. It was ugly, but they got a win. And again, I think the Giants can do some good things against Deshaun Watson. But what are they going to do against the Browns defense? Browns defense was bad against Dallas, but was really good against Jacksonville. Really good against Trevor Lawrence. And I think you look at the Browns team, and if the Giants don't beat Cleveland, and that's a big question mark. Giants right now are underdogs. And the Browns defense had sacked Trevor Lawrence 4 times. I don't know how much they're going to sack Daniel Jones. This is the Giants' schedule after next week should they lose to Cleveland. Home to Dallas on next Thursday night. You know Dallas is going to beat them up. At Seattle, who, as I said before, looks pretty good early, and you're going on the road. Home to Cincinnati, who's 0-2, but really should have beat the Chiefs yesterday. Home to Philly. You're staring at 0-7 in the face if you lose this game. So very quickly, the season could really spiral under control for this Giants team and really put Brian Daboll under the microscope and Joe Shane under the microscope, because that was, again, you're playing these games that you need to win. And we said these first 2 games are going to set the tone for their season. And they have just not done that. They looked dead as a doornail against the Vikings. And then yesterday, not making the pivotal plays they needed to make to win this game. And if you just had another kicker on the roster and been prepared, you would have been 1-1. Taryn Rodriguez is here. Jets finally went Rodgers. Giants are really a lot of concern. They're not Panthers level of concerning, but they are pretty darn close. Larry B is here. What's up, Larry? Yeah, the Giants, they're not really good. Jets, Larry says they kind of suck too, but they won. Maybe they're getting better. Again, I think this Jet team is not going to be the same now as you'll see in week 10 and 11. They've got a lot of growth they've got to do, and that was a big road win for them just to get them the first win off their back. I think now they can play a little bit more loose. They're not going to be bothered about, hey, you're 0-2, what's going on, sky's falling, all those things. There's at least positives in the right direction, and this is the team that I think with the Jets, I'm more inclined to think that they'll be more dangerous later in the year once Rodgers gets a rhythm and once everything starts to work itself out. Maybe Hassan Reddick wants to show up, who knows. But that's where they're going to be the most dangerous. So we'll take our first break. We'll come back. We'll talk baseball. 2 weeks left in the regular season. Boy, as the time flew. Yankees look like they're going to take the AL East. Mets still a playoff shot, but they took a big injury over the weekend. So we'll take our first break. We'll come back. We'll talk some baseball here on New York State Sports and IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
And welcome back here, New York State of Sports and IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports. And we'll talk some. We'll actually talk some Mets in a little bit, going to Philadelphia and Philly, showing, hey, why they're the best team in the National League right now. But let's start with the Yankees, who they did take 2 out of 3 with Kansas City. They found a way to get some big hits late. Juan Soto with a big 2-run homer against a really good Royals rotation. And I was saying it last week, when you play the Royals, and if that's a wild card series or a 3 out of 5, and you're playing Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, and Brady Singer, it's not an easy best of 3 to go with. So they play the Red Sox. Boston's trying to fight for their playoff life right now. They're 4.5 back in the wild card. Yankees got an extra inning win on Thursday. They were down 4-1 on Friday. Aaron Judge hits a grand slam, and he's starting to bounce back too. It was talking about how he hadn't hit a home run since he was the star in Paw Patrol, which was a weird thing to really discuss in terms of that being a jinx, so to speak. But he hits a grand slam. Yankees end up winning on Friday. Yesterday, he hits a 2-run homer. They go up 4-0 in the third inning. Carlos Rodon gets his career-high 15th win. And you look at Carlos Rodon, it's kind of surprising that he's been good. He's not been great, but he's been good. Maybe he hasn't lived up to the contract, but I don't think he's really been the guy that I would have given that contract to begin with. But you overpay for pitching on the market. I think he's been pretty good. So it's what's the question there? Nestor Cortez was dominant the other day. He showed he's pitching with a chip on his shoulder. He wants to stay in this rotation. And the big issue for the Yankees now is how to deal with Marcus Stroman. Aaron Boone skip Stroman start. He's effective out of the bullpen right now as they let go to 5 guys in the rotation. And the question is Stroman going to take it well? I mean, that's something that's been known about Marcus Stroman. He's not exactly known for being a player that's going to handle bad news well. But you got to play with a championship mindset and know that your team is first. But Saturday was concerning to me. And it was concerning to me because of Garrett Cole, where I love watching Garrett Cole. I think he's great. I think he's a really interesting character to watch because of how cerebral and how he tends to outthink a lot of players. But he outthought himself, and I think he's scared of the Red Sox to some extent. He was 4 1/3, 7 runs, 5 hits, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. Again, the Yankees lose 7-1. Brayan Bello was just dominant. Yankees had a tough time scoring with men scoring position for the bulk of the series, by the way, and I think that's still a concern for them in the postseason. But let's talk about with Cole. So Rafael Devers owns Garrett Cole. I mean, if there's a player that really dominates Cole in all baseball, it's Devers. He hits Devers in the first inning, and then you go to the 4th inning where the Red Sox finally took the lead with 1 out. They elect to intentionally walk Devers with nobody on. Ends up stealing second. Tyler O'Neill works a walk. Masataka Yoshida gets an RBI double. Willie Abreu a 2-run single, and just like that, the Red Sox are up 3-1. And when you look at that situation, it's where Cole outthought himself, and there was clearly a plan to at some point do this during the game. And my problem with that is, well, the Yankees had a tough time really admitting that throughout. Austin Wells was being honest, and Austin Wells is a rookie catcher. Cole and Wells have to be on the same page with this going into the playoffs. And I'm looking at a guy in Garrett Cole that's trying to do more than really what he's trying to game plan a game where you can't script baseball. Especially in this game, if you want to do this in May and June, all power to you. You got to play these games to win in September. And it just sounded like I'm going to experiment with this and see how it works and all. You can't do that. And that's where the Yankees look. You want to be taken like you want to win a championship. You don't do stuff like this. You just don't. So to me, that was mind-boggling. But in the big picture, or at least the immediate picture, the Yankees take 3 out of 4. The Orioles struggle with the Tigers. So the Yankees have a 3-game lead in the AL East with 12 to play. And now they face a little bit of their own tough stretch. They go out west, which is weird to go out west in September. But they do. They will play Seattle starting Tuesday night, 9:40 Eastern, first pitch Tuesday, 9:40 Wednesday, and 4:10 on Thursday. It'll be Luis Gil against Brian Wu tomorrow. It'll be Nestor Cortez and Bryce Miller on Wednesday. And then on Thursday afternoon, Clark Schmidt against Logan Gilbert. So no George Kirby for Seattle in this series. Mariners fighting for both the division and the wild card. They can pitch well. They struggle offensively, even though their bats have woken up and they wear their City Connects every day to try to win. But that's going to feel like a playoff series for the Mariners. So the Yankees have to bring that intensity if they're looking to go forward. And then this weekend they play the A's in Oakland, and the A's are 65 and 85, but the A's have actually been pretty good in the second half. And considering this is one of the final series that will get played in Oakland, you want to see the Yankees still play that energy, and I think they will. The Orioles, again, look really bad against the Tigers offensively. They're struggling. If the Yankees can just get into that Orioles series with a 3-4 game lead, even though Baltimore would win the head-to-head, all they have to really win is one game, and they control their destiny playing the Pirates at home while the Orioles play the Twins, who will be fighting for a playoff spot. So the Yankees think are in a really good position right now. They should feel really confident about themselves. I think they've kind of written the ship, and I think they're going to fix the ship, so to speak. There are some issues for sure, but for right now, I think they're in a good spot. So now let's talk some Mets. And Mets went out to Philly, dominated the first game. Francisco Alvarez hits a 3-run homer. Harrison Bader hits a homer. Brandon Nimmo hits a homer. Things look good on Friday, especially dominating Aaron Nola. And then they go to Philly. Then this weekend, they're 4-0 in the third inning on Saturday. They lose the game. Yesterday, David Peterson throws 7 strong innings. Mets can't score a run. Phillies end up scoring 2 in the 8th. They win 2-1. And if you're a Met fan, you're thinking you should have won this series, but that's not even the biggest concern. Francisco Lindor leaves the game on Friday with a back, sits Saturday, plays yesterday, leaves the game again with a back injury. He's having an MRI on it today. Told the media afterwards he's felt the back issues for the last couple of weeks, and he's been carrying the Mets literally and figuratively on his back. And I think you look at the situation with the Mets, Lindor is their leader right now. If they don't have him, and I know Luis Angel Acuna came up, and this is a player that feels that he's going to be the future, and they have the really young, strong, talented shortstops in the minor leagues. When you talk about Acuna, Jet Williams is good and promoted to AAA. He's a player you're going to want to watch going forward. But they need more. They need this offense to get going. I mean, they stopped scoring after the third inning the other day. And you have Nimmo, Vientos, Alonso. JD Martinez is getting good results, hitting the ball hard, but no good results. Tyrone Taylor hits a clutch homer in the 8th inning yesterday off of Christopher Sanchez, who was really good. Phillies are showing they're the best team in the National League. I think the best team in baseball. And that's where it kind of kills the Mets. They need to hope the Phillies eventually clinch this division, have nothing to play for. But they probably will because they need a 1 seed. But I think the pitching in this series overall is pretty good. Severino looked good Saturday. David Peterson, as I said, was excellent on Sunday. And I think that they put themselves in at least a decent position. Braves lost last night to the Dodgers, 7 runs allowed in the 9th inning. Mets are home for the final homestand this week. They host the Nationals meeting tonight for 3 games. Jake Irvin against Sean Manaea. So the Mets get one of their co-aces on the mound. Then on Tuesday, Mitchell Parker against Tyler McGill. Again, McGill is slotted into this series, not the Philly series. Mets want their top guys, I think, going forward, especially against Philly and Atlanta. And DJ Hers against Luis Quintana on Wednesday. Mets will then host the Phillies for 4. A couple Apple TV, Fox, Sunday Night Baseball. So they'll be in the national spotlight this week. As for the wild card standings, again, they're tied with the Braves, 2 behind the Diamondbacks. Braves are playing the Dodgers tonight. Yamamoto against Free, which is an excellent matchup. Atlanta then is in Cincinnati for 3 games this week. And then they are actually still on the road. They're at Miami. Marlins are not very good, but again, road games, you take that if you will. Diamondbacks are in Colorado this week. And then they are not home, they're at Milwaukee. Really good series by the Diamondbacks Brewers over the week. So I think the Mets are in a decent position. You need good news, though, on Lindor to feel pretty good. But all in all, to take 2 out of 3 and to lose 2 out of 3 and stay tied, I think it's good. And the Mets knew this. That series against Atlanta next week, which we'll look ahead to in depth, is going to decide their season, period. I mean, that's really what it's going to come down to. Larry said for the Yankees, Mariners would be tough, but Oakland shouldn't be hard. I think, Larry, you got to look at the A's a little bit differently. And the A's they're not going to make the playoffs, so they're not a good team overall on the season. But they're a team that can mash. They're a team that offensively has some talent. And I think the key is going to be when you look at this Oakland team since the All-Star break, they have been a different team. They were 15-9 in July, 14-12 in August. They're right now 6th. They've lost 8 of their last 14, so they're dropping back a little bit. But this is a different A's team than earlier in the year. And I think there is something when it's their time in Oakland's coming to an end. The Yankees are coming into town. The ballpark will be more packed than it's ever been. The A's, I think, are going to put up a fight. But it does help that the Yankees do end at home to end the year. They end in Baltimore, home against the O's and against the Pirates. And Ralph and Shook can attest to this. I don't think we see Paul Skeens in that last series. I think the Pirates, by then, if the Yankees can lead by 2 or 3 with 3 games to go, they'll be fine. To me, that's why I'm not really worried yet if they're going to necessarily win the division. I think they will. We'll preview both Orioles, Yankees, and Mets, Braves next week. It is a really pivotal week next week for New York baseball. But both teams, I think, should be at least Yankees more happy than the Mets. For the Mets, at least, I think they're more encouraged if Lindor his MRI is okay, because think about it. They competed with the Phillies. They didn't get the doors blown off them. And really, any Met fan could tell you they should have won this series. And maybe Peterson shouldn't have started the 8th yesterday. But I agree with Mendoza. Bottom of the lineup up. And I want Diaz ready for the top. Ron Darling made a good point. Maybe they should have walked Real Muto to face Brandon Marsh. You could have did that. But I think the Mets are fine. I think they're right where they need to be in that. And these last 12 games are going to be exciting. So we'll see what the Mets do at home this week and what the Yankees do out west before some big series next week. We'll take one more break. We'll come back. We'll go around the New York area. Liberty take a tough loss yesterday. There was racing in Watkins Glen. We'll look ahead to college football this week. Some big games for Syracuse and Rutgers. So much to dive into. We'll call it the grab bag, if you will, over the last 10, 15 minutes. You'll listen to New York State of Sports and iSports Radio, direct feed for all this sports. We will be right back in just a minute.
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen B., host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Galise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold, have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Galise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
And welcome back. Wrapping up New York State of Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Just finished up with the Yankees and the Mets, so we got a lot of local things going on. Of course, basketball will be up soon. Hockey will be up soon. There's a lot going on in the air. So we like to turn the last 10, 15 minutes into kind of a grab bag of New York topics, if you will, because over the next couple of weeks, we're hoping to have two playoff teams in baseball, Giants and Jets going, maybe something with the New York Liberty, which we'll get into. So we're going to try to spend as much time as we can on a couple of different things. So let's talk Liberty to start with. And look, they got the sweep of Dallas they needed, and they went into a big game yesterday against the Minnesota Lynx at the Barclays Center. Of course, the Lynx, remember, beat them to win the Commissioner's Cup earlier in the year. And you're thinking, like, get the win, clinch the 1 seed. You can rest the next 2 weeks and really feel good about yourself. And the Lynx went in and dominated this game. They got up 13 in the first quarter, didn't look back, outscored the Liberty 22-11 in the third. They win 88-79. And look, the Liberty are going to get the 1 seed. They're 2 up with 2 to play. All they have to do is win 1 game, and the Lynx have to lose 1 game. The Lynx are at Connecticut on Tuesday. So that's going to be a tough game. Connecticut still has a chance to get the 2 seed, I believe, if they win out and Minnesota loses out. This is a concern for the Liberty because we talk about Vegas, and they swept Vegas, although Asia Wilson scored over 1,000 points this year. She's fantastic. But the Liberty have some question marks. Now, Brianna Stewart was excellent yesterday. 38 points, 18 rebounds. She was 12 of 27. The next highest score was Sabrina Nescu, and she had 13 points, 8 assists, but she was 4 for 21, including 2 for 12 from 3. And we've said this a lot over the last few weeks. And Nescu hasn't been great in the second half in terms of her shooting percentage. When you dissect it, 4 for 21. She was 8 of 18 against Dallas on Thursday, but 6 of 21 on September 8th against Vegas. 5 for 18 against Seattle on September 5th. 7 of 16 on August 30th. She's not been efficient with her shooting, and that can be a little bit of a concern when you get into the postseason, especially for a team that wants to win a championship. But Jonquel Jones didn't play well yesterday. 9 points, 5 rebounds. Phoebus didn't even score a point. And Kennedy Burke, 8 minutes, she only had 1 rebound. Sabley came back. She had 9. But they get Benaja Lady Hamilton back, which is good news for this team. But the Lynx going to feel confident going in and play. If they do play Liberty in a conference final or a WNBA championship, they're going to feel confident they can beat this team. Cheryl Reed was a really good coach. She coached Team USA to the gold medal. So all in all, I don't think you're alarmed. But even Brianna Stewart said, "Look, we got to be better." Like the Liberty are in control of their own destiny for the 1 seed. And they also control the path of who they're going to play. Tuesday, they play the Mystics on NBA TV, 7 o'clock in DC, and then they host the Dream on Thursday to wrap up the year. The Mystics and Dream right now are tied along with Chicago for that final playoff spot, and that team would play Liberty in the first round. So New York controls everything in terms of their path for a 1 seed and who they're going to play, which makes things very interesting. In terms of NASCAR, we had a road course at the Glen, bowling at the Glen, if you will, and it was a really fun race. Road races are always really cool because they create a different dynamic than your super speedway stuff. Chris Buescher wins on the final lap, gets a pass on the last lap. So a really fun event. Again, they're going to move this race to August next year. Chris Buescher wins over Shane Van Gisbergen, Carson Hocevar, Ross Chastain, and Zane Smith round out your top 5. In terms of playoff guys, it looks like Chase Briscoe is 6th, Austin Cindric was 10th, Kyle Larson 12th. So road courses are really ones that you're not going to see the top guys necessarily do well in because it's so different. But when you get drama like that, you'll sign up for it. So really cool to see NASCAR can come to the area and put on a good stage, especially on a Sunday when you're competing with the NFL and MLB. You get that kind of drama in a race, you'll absolutely take it. Going into the MLS, and I think when you look at the last few weeks of the season, it's going to be really tough for both NYCFC and the Red Bulls if they don't find a way to get some consistency. Now let's start with NYCFC. They went on the road. They took on DC United, and they end up getting a 1-1 draw. But for the third straight game, they had the lead early. Santi Rodriguez hits a penalty kick in the 32nd minute. And then second half, they take a penalty. Christian Benteke scores in the 67th minute. So both teams ended a 1-1 draw in a game where NYFC had 62% of the possession. So what you're seeing with Nick Cushing's club is they can't hold leads in the second half, and that's been an issue for them all season long. So you hate to see that. They take a tie. Red Bulls, on the other hand, they go to Chicago, give up a goal in the 31st minute. Dennis Jengar scores in the 47th minute to tie it, and then Georgios Koutsias scores for the Fire in the 75th minute to win 2-1. That's a tough loss for the Red Bulls. Chicago is a team just trying to stay alive for a playoff spot, and I know it's on the road, and I know it's not the ideal situation. You've got to win these games, or at least find a way to get points. The Red Bulls are doing a really good job of getting points. To come away with nothing in that scenario is a little bit of a thing to worry about with about a month to go in the season. So coming up next for both these teams, NYCFC is home to Philadelphia with the Yankees being out west. They get really the matchups this week at Yankee Stadium, and the big matchup, the really fun one, the one that costs your second mortgage to go to. Saturday afternoon, 2:00 Eastern, my mother's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. Of course, really one of the reasons I'm really into baseball is my mother. We debate it all the time, especially she's a Mets fan. I'm more Yankees. Messi to Yankee Stadium, 2:00. Messi's actually back, which is really good for especially these ticket prices somebody might have paid for. But Miami's the best team in the league, one of the best teams in the league. Chance for NYCFC to kind of really put themselves on the map here, maybe get a statement win. We'll see. Red Bulls, on the other hand, their next game, so I'll pull that up here. They do not play Wednesday. Saturday, they host Atlanta. That's at 7:30 Eastern time. You look at the table currently in the MLS, Red Bulls are in the 4th position, 43 points. NYCFC is tied with Orlando for 5th. So both these teams still in the top 5, but not good results, and I think you'd want to see a little bit better, at least on that side. In terms of, we'll wrap it up with some basketball. Of course, you said hockey preseason is next week, believe it or not. The Knicks made a couple of interesting moves, and one of the cool things when you're a good team is you want to be able to, you'll get guys that you don't expect to get, and you'll get them with really cheap deals and hope that they can play an impact for your team because they want to play for a contender. And you look at the Knicks, they added a couple interesting guys. Marcus Morris Sr., who I think is going to be if he's on the roster, add some front court depth. And they added Landry Shamet. Landry Shamet can shoot the ball a little bit. And I think you look at Shamet, what's the one connection that you think about? It's that he played with Mikal Bridges in Phoenix. So they're getting players that have played with each other that already have chemistry. And when you put a new big three together, you always worry about chemistry and cohesiveness and all those things. Knicks have that. Like adding Bridges with the Villanova trio is not going to really bring the worry about playing with each other. Maybe you'll get a little bit of it, but it's not to the extent that when other teams manufacture big threes together. So that to me would be the alarming rate, at least on the Knicks front. Ralph brought up a good point. Patrick Law said about an hour ago that Ilya Sorokin had back surgery this offseason. Sorokin's one of the better goaltenders in the league. Struggled a little bit last year. We saw Varlamov play a little bit. If Sorokin's not right to begin the year, of course, the Metro is a very difficult division. So you're not really sure essentially what you're going to get. And the Islanders would love to get off to a fast start. Of course, those two teams will play next Tuesday as the preseason gets underway. Islanders and Rangers will kick off the preseason slate. Then we have a couple of weeks of preseason hockey, and we're right back into the regular season with that. And we'll dive into some more hockey. So I think when you look at the Knicks, and I love the fact that they're going to have some depth and some training camp competition for some of these last roster spots. And look, they still need a center. they'll be looking. Brian Windhorst, I was listening to on one of the ESPN shows, talking about that's a move at the deadline they could make, or throughout, once they get into December, January, they can look to make a move. They still have a lot of draft picks. And it makes too much sense for the Knicks to not explore that situation and go forward. Also, real quick, NWSL tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern, the Gotham FC take on the Seattle Reign. That should be a real interesting game. So if you're looking for something after the the NFL action tonight, Falcons and Eagles, Gotham FC is 4th right now in the NWSL. They're 2 points out of 3rd, so a chance maybe for them to get in the 3rd position. And they've got some really good scores as well. Ralph says he hopes Skeens pitches versus the Yankees. I'd love to go. I think from a competition standpoint, I'm sure the Orioles would root for that. And at least the Pirates haven't shown any signs of shutting Skeens down with 2 weeks to go. I think if they had shut him down, maybe they would have shut him down by now. But that's the thing what helps the Yankees. If they can get through this West Coast week still in first place and even have a 2 or 3 game lead, then the Orioles series is more pressure for Baltimore than it is New York. Remember, the Orioles need 1 win in that series to clinch the head-to-head tiebreaker should there be a tie. There's no game 163s anymore, which I actually miss. I actually miss the fact that you don't have that 163 that you would hope for. So that should be fun. College football, before we go, big games this week for the locals. We had no big Division 1A college football this week. I know Cortland got a really good win locally. And Ralph says he's not shut down yet, just an innings restriction. So there is a limited Paul Skeens, albeit part of Paul Skeens. Syracuse, by the way, is now, they got some votes in the AP poll. They're 27th, technically. So one more win could get them in that top 25. They were off. They will take on Stanford Friday night, 7:30 on ESPN. Cuse right now are favored by almost 9 points. Stanford lost to TCU earlier this year. Can Kyle McCord keep up this good pace? 8 touchdowns, 1 pick in his first 2 games. Stanford's quarterback is actually a leading rusher, so that's a good sign, I think, for Syracuse defensively. They should come away with a win there. Rutgers gets a test. They will head out to Blacksburg to take on Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt earlier in the year. Rutgers is underdog by 3 points. Calic managed 3 touchdowns each of the first 2 games. Monongai had a big game against Akron on the ground. If Monongai can run the ball well, look, this could be a statement win for Rutgers. Get themselves 3-0, going into a Big Ten play. One of those non-conference games that we circled on the calendar before the year started. And then in the American, Army makes its home conference debut. They will take on Rice. Rice is 1-2. They lost to Sam Houston and Houston, so Rice is probably happy they don't play a Houston team this week. Army's favored by 4. Rice's quarterback, I believe, is Kurt Warner's son, EJ Warner. 4 interceptions so far for Rice this year, for Warner this season. Army's been running the ball extremely well. If they can get their ground attack going, they should be in a good position and get themselves to 3-0 and maybe even go 2-0 in the American. That's some good signs for the Black Knights. So Jeff Monken's got his team playing well. All 3 got these big teams got the week off, and we'll see what happens from there. So overall, that is going to do it. Thank you all for tuning in this week. Real exciting stuff. Again, Jets play Thursday against the Patriots. Maybe we'll do maybe something on Friday, recapping the game. I'd like to kind of do that for some of these local games, especially when they play Thursdays and Mondays. Maybe get some of the IE Sports Radio family involved as well, as my schedule dictates. Giants, what are they going to find to win? I don't know. 0-2 to start the year. They got to find a kicker. That'll be something to watch over this week. But the pressure clearly starting to get to Brian Dable. The hot seat stuff, running his own plays. And Neighbors looks really good. They got to find a number 2, though, to help him out. Otherwise, if you put so much pressure on this rookie, can he hold up to the spotlight? So far he has, but get other guys involved. Make this offense more dynamic than just one player. We will see. Yankees and Mets head on their final 2 weeks of the season. Yankees just hold serve. Hold serve and you win the East. Mets got to take every game like it's a playoff game. And these are 3 games international. If you want to be a playoff team, win them all. Win at least 2. Hope you get some help from the Dodgers tonight, the Reds, and the Marlins this week. Of course, when Chris Sale pitches, it's never easy to get help from the Braves. Sale's been dominant, but All the Knicks have to do is just have a good week and get set for Atlanta. But playing Philly for 4 at home, that'd be tough. So if you're going to those games, bring that playoff energy. That's what's going to feel like at Citi Field this week between the Phillies and the Nets. It's going to be a really fun atmosphere. The local college football teams just mentioned going to be in action. We'll see what happens there with all 3 of them. The Liberty, 1 win away from having the best record in the WNBA. If they win out, they have the best record in franchise history. They'd be 33-7. Be an historic regular season, but can they cap it off with a run in the championship? We shall see. There's a good NASCAR this week as well. Knicks are close to getting underway. Rangers preseason next week. Islanders, Devils, all those things. We have great fun over the fall. Hopefully the weather will get cooler as well. I'm not a fan of the heat still in New York. We will see. So from all of us here at IE Sports, some great shows coming later today. The KC show, this week, is going to be upcoming later on this afternoon. You're going to want to watch that. That should be so much fun. From all of us here at IE Sports Radio, I'm Ricky Keeler saying a great rest of your week. If I don't see you Friday for recap Jeff Page, we'll see you next week to recap all the action in New York. See you then, everybody.